Okay, so just a little update. I did go today and get an x-ray. I had a family member that was really concerned with not what's going on here. And I don't care about the discoloration. I've sustained enough injuries to know. But this, I can't press it down. So I went to make sure to my regular doctor, and she was like, she took one look at me and she said, oh, no, wait. Usually when I see stuff like this, automatically we can tell as medical professionals that the straight line of this was not from a punch, like a human fist, because there would be other discoloration everywhere else. So then I went to the second doctor because she gave me a referral and said, I want you to go here. I went there. They did the scan, and very thankfully, God is good, do I have no broken bones. So this is a hematoma, and it's like, excuse my accent, sometimes I just don't sound out stuff right. So it's basically just a really bad bruise. And even up underneath here, where you're not seeing that red color, is still very bruised. So the good news is it'll go away. They didn't prescribe me anything for it. They told me if it begins to hurt, just to put cold compress and be done. So the main purpose of this message is this. Since finding that out, we have to think about, we have to be duly diligent. And what I mean by that is I haven't suffered such a detriment that it's going to impede me from work or impede me from my normal functionality. Okay, so when we talk about legal terms, which you're going to see me struggle with this because it's hard for me to explain things without just using the legal terms, but for the sake of hoping to educate some of you who actually do care, your family members are in there. The 11 people that contacted me, most of them were a family member of someone who is incarcerated right now or has just been released recently. And then I had a few that were inquiring about themselves, about gashes and blood loss and all kinds of stuff. So there was a plethora of different types of injuries and bad experiences, if you just will. When we talk about law, here's the most important thing. My professional opinion, my education level, and the time that I have spent working with these types of details, I don't see yet anywhere where this is going to become a criminal thing. So we have laws in place that are civil laws, and we have statutory laws. So when we talk about creating a precedence, there were 6 employees that were fired, I guess in July, for altering records and or either withholding information. So, and they were Nassau County Sheriff's officers from the jail, and they were fired. I did duly note that their warrant date and their actual arrest dates were inappropriately far too apart. Something should have been quicker. So that type of leniency, we have to start thinking about things called scope of employment. So the precedence is already there. The case similar to what we're talking about right now is already happened. It's been there. So that's where the statutory law and the employment law, civil law comes into play. Okay, and then once we get to a point where we start asking ourselves, how and why did this happen? Then we have to look at specifics. Scope of employment just basically means that the worker, the JSO office, in Nassau County officer, like a CO, understands that her job is a description. That is her scope of employment. And when you go outside of the scope of employment, whether it be a small thing or a big thing, it's breaking what they call an implied contract. So we need to understand, what was this officer doing at this time? Did the job and the job description require her actions to be the way that they were? And then we have to think about, okay, now we have a whole separate thing going on, because we have exceptions to at-will employment. I don't care if you think I'm ridiculous or stupid or whatever, but probably, like when I went through the case studies, when I had to take my legal classes and I had all these case studies that I had to go through, I can tell you it's upward of 60% of lawsuits in the state of Florida that happen from negligence. They hire and fire badly, poorly, wrongfully, and exceptions to at will explain to you what is federal law and what your rights are as an employee. So, and it doesn't just do that, but it provides provisions for people that are not just working on the staff, but are inmates. Whistleblowing provisions are here in Florida. There's implied contract. There's the covenant of goodwill and faith. There are express contracts. We have to start looking at, was that CO in violation of an exception to at will? And if you would go and just look it up, I believe you can just Google it. They probably have some type of like chart or some, I don't know. If you want an actual chart, I'll send you the one from my study guide in employment law from my school. I have to erase the answers, but I will give you an explanation. So once we do that, then the recording process, never, ever, ever, ever let somebody make you a promise over the phone if it's not being recorded. If the phone call is not recorded, no. You always want to have an email, a piece of paper. Text messages nowadays, depending on where they happen, especially social media, can be deleted. So if you get information like a rejection, you ask for something and then they tell you, no, I can't do that, and then you ask why, you want to screenshot that right away. You've got to just, and I've went to court, but the last time I was there, I was suing an employer that had fired me because I refused to take overtime hours from 1 week to the next week on a 2-week period, so the employee didn't get overtime pay. It's illegal. Nassau County Sheriff's Department has no right or authority to write their own policy. They must abide by federal policy and state policy. So somewhere in this mix, the policy that is wrote, that is actually official, has not either been enforced or informed upon these employees. Now, I can't say as to which it is, but I'm letting you know how to deal with yourself. And then on top of that, when an injury occurs, unless it is a violent, intentional, like, thing, it's still going to be something civil. That does not mean that you are not entitled to recompense. So you can, I spoke with a woman that's been doing this since 2018, because I really didn't have any kind of knowledge of the jailhouse and how all of that worked or processed or any of that. But she did. And I have the employment law smarts, if you will. So I was able to tell her how to look out for these little specific details and record them, and because they are important. But I am going to put her in touch with the people that have contacted me, just because it, in my view, that this is going to end up a civil thing, does not mean it can't be class action, and it does not mean injury attorneys cannot participate in getting retribution, whether it's monetary or not, for the people that have been affected and experienced this. Also, if you are one of those people and you have suffered long term, even if it's a mental and emotional thing, if you're seeing a therapist, if you are on drugs for anxiety and it was due to what happened in the jailhouse, you've got to chart that. And I do believe if you go into a lawsuit that's civil, I think it's like an $80 charge for, and it may be cheaper than that. I could be completely wrong, but I think the last thing I heard was 80. To have your medical provider, your therapist, your shrink, your doctor, or whatever, subpoenaed, or either a written statement that's notarized be included in evidence. So I hope this helps anybody. I really don't care about, like, listen, you guys that are just screwing off, you're one of three things. You're either ignorant and too young to even put together long-term consequence, or you're either being nasty, like a dick, a jackass, or you're just assuming because you're bored and you need something to participate in. Let me explain something. Nobody here that is serious about jailhouse conditions is listening to you. I mean, you are irrelevant. Nothing. None of your comments are even considered relevant. You're irrelevant. So why don't you just sit down and allow these families who have suffered a great loss to get the information that they need without being judged, and to be able to have, I mean, this is what social media is for. So just stop. Nobody cares, okay? No, nobody cares. I'm not losing sleep over your comment. I can tell you that is the last thing. Anybody that's worked for me, and I feel like there's a significant amount of people in Nassau County that know that's exactly the type of person I am. I will stick my neck out for you. I will do anything humanly possible to help you. But when you start to behave irrationally, I move on. I will move on, and I will focus on the next thing ahead of me that is important. So if you do, like if you see this and you haven't reached out to me already, because I've got to sit down and send a bunch of emails and whatever. But if you have not reached out to me and you want to empower yourself and you want to get in contact with this group of people that I've found, please go ahead. Feel free to message me. I will get to you ASAP. I do believe that this subject matter is very important. I mean, it really, truly does not matter what your charge is or why you're even in the jailhouse. Humanity, look that definition up. God, Lord, some of you really need to look that definition up. Must maintain, not just in all the types of law that I've mentioned, but in civil rights. So we have to, as adults and professionals, maintain a sense of humanity. If we did not, you little June bugs that are Gen Z and Gen Y, or you guys, you wouldn't have the luxuries that you have. So let's just put that aside. If you need information, please contact me. I am ready and willing. Basically, what I'm going to do from here is be kind of like the switchboard operator and a consultant to tell you what you need to look for and help you understand the information that you already have and then how to move forward. And no, I'm not charging money for any of this. It is what I do, but listen, this is different. We got to come together and address this issue, because it's obviously an issue. All right, thanks. Okay, so just a